1 in 3 women and 1 in 6 men have been stalked at some point in their lives, according to statistics gathered by the Centers for Disease Control through the National Intimate Partner and Sexual Violence Survey. One Livingston family painfully living the consequences of those numbers, according to Turlock Police, who say Zaveda Esquera was killed, shot over and over Tuesday night by a man who had been stalking her. Juan Navarro Tapia is now being held without bail for attacking a young woman known as Zoe to her loved ones, a young woman who refused his advances to take their close friendship any further. I am joined now live by Beth Hassett, the CEO of WEAVE, which stands for When Everyone Acts, Violence Ends, to talk about this case and what seems to be an uptick in fatal domestic violence situations across our region. Thank you, Beth, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We have had this terrible situation with Zoe Tuesday night, a man accused of walking up to the auto parts store where they met, where they both once worked, where on Tuesday night she was waiting to pick up her boyfriend, a man killing her and firing at other employees. And this came after her reporting him and him being arrested for following her and setting fire to her car and her mother's car. How do you defend against someone intent on pursuing you this way? The restraining order she filed had expired.
You know, people underestimate how dangerous stalkers are and how dangerous the stalking behavior can be. You know, they tend to be a group of offenders who, with high rates of recidivism, even after having restraining orders against them, they tend to ignore them and continue stalking. And unfortunately, a lot of the behavior that shows up in stalking is dismissed by the community. People look at it and it doesn't seem as high risk as it is, because often it's you know, showing up where they have no business being. It's following the victim. There aren't overt acts of violence. There were in this case, which just go to show you how volatile this situation was.
Well, staying with the perceptions about stalking, it's taken so much more seriously than it was even 5 years ago. But the Esquera family would probably say still not seriously enough. Juan Navarro Tapia was allowed to post bond last fall after being charged with arson for the car situation with Zoe and her mom. I'm sure on that side of the equation here, they felt like that was very, very serious and that maybe bond shouldn't have been issued.
Well, and one thing I think is very confusing for people is very often and most often, people who are stalking somebody get arrested for something completely different than stalking. In this case, arson, or they might get arrested for vandalism, something that seems almost disconnected from the stalking behavior. And it can lead people to not recognize, although in this case, clearly the family recognized, but often authorities and people who might have intervened in some way aren't making that connection between that stalking and domestic violence related activity and these other crimes that the person's being arrested for.
So really it's a situation of more people up and down the legal chain needing to connect the dots.
Absolutely. And, you know, 3/4 of stalking victims know their stalker. And a large majority of them were in an intimate relationship or are in an intimate relationship with the person. I don't know what happened in this case, but it sounds like many cases where the victim did not believe that she was in an intimate relationship with this person, but perhaps there were delusions that they were, which is not uncommon in stalking, that there's a perceived deeper relationship than there really is there. So, you know, you're also dealing with mental health issues and all sorts of other things that can lead to the volatility of a stalker.
The day before Zoe was killed, Sacramento police were in a standoff with a man on Telfair Way who called 911 to say he'd shot his wife and was going to shoot himself. After hours and hours of trying to get into that house safely, they found the wife and the husband dead. That couple not yet officially identified. That situation a week to the day after a father killed his 3 daughters and the man chaperoning their supervised visit at a Sacramento church. I know that terrible situations of domestic violence unfortunately happen every day, but this sort of feels different, like a lot is really happening all at once.
It definitely feels like it's just been tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. I mean, yes, we dwell in this world, so we hear about these cases all the time, but this has been 3 very violent and very disturbing cases in a row. And I think it's just really shaking the whole community. People are wondering, what can we do differently? How can we stop these crimes before they happen in the future?
And what advice are you giving to people for what can be done differently?
I think for people who are part of what's supposed to be a safety net for these victims, we need to be looking at where we're failing them, where the system is failing them. Just this morning, I had a meeting about, what legislation should we be looking at? How can we shore up the laws that already exist? And for individual community members, it's more of what I always preach, which is pay attention, reach out to the people around you, notice what's going on in people's lives. Often domestic violence is a very hidden situation and people aren't open about it. But the more we can normalize talking about unhealthy and abusive relationships so that people can get help early, the safer everybody will be.
2017 seemed to have this kind of feel to it, with 14 lives lost and 8 domestic violence homicides in our area between March and September of that year. All of that in just 6 months. 8 of the victims then were kids. What about 2022, in your estimation, maybe just in society, is like 2017, that we seem to be in this kind of cycle again?
Yeah, I don't like the way things have started in 2022. And one thing that concerns me is it has the feeling of people who were isolated, people who have been experiencing mental health issues, all sorts of disempowering feelings during the pandemic. And I worry, based on the huge numbers of people who are coming to us for assistance, unprecedented numbers of people coming for help with domestic violence issues. I just worry that it's just been this kettle boiling and simmering, and that people are really going to escalate and explode in a way that we haven't seen for years.
Definitely something to look out for. Now, a lot of people don't trust their gut, right? When they first get that tickle and start thinking, this person I date or work with or see at the coffee shop, something's off with them. I don't feel safe around them. So maybe the biggest lesson out of all of this is that even if it feels silly, make that report, tell somebody, start that paper trail, reach out to groups like Weave sooner rather than later.
And learn all the different types of domestic violence and how it might look. People really get fixated on the physical violence. And I can tell you that that is not how it starts, and it's not how most people are experiencing these relationships. There's financial abuse, there's technological abuse, there's emotional abuse. All of these things are precursors to the violence. And the more we can spread the word and be noticing things that, like you said, don't feel right, don't look right in somebody else's relationship, and recognize the fact that this counts as domestic violence. It doesn't have to be physical. And find a way to extract yourself or to help somebody leave before it escalates, when it's maybe just an unhealthy relationship, before it becomes abusive.
And to that end of reaching out for help, advice, support, get a pen, everybody out there, so you can jot down some important information for yourself or maybe a friend. You can reach out to Weave locally at 916-920-2952. You can also find help on the other end of the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That number also at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-799-7233. And Beth, thank you so much for joining us this morning and talking about this issue.
Thank you.